Bison.
But what we do is go in and we look and see which ones they're taking the most of, and that gives us an idea of what the grasses are deficient in.
None that are fit for company.
Okay.
There you go. There you go, birds.
Sounds like a bad idea.
Yeah. So I mentioned that they're shedding their hair right now. This is also a winter hide that was harvested and that we had tanned. So this would have been like what they used to make coats and blankets and things like that. But we might get a little bit smaller one the next time. And these are called a campground model because people can, it creates a lot of wildlife habitat. All right.
All right. Oh, they're so pretty. Recording them? Yeah. If I wasn't, I'd be so mad. Oh, shoot. Hello, my name is Connor. Welcome back to the Paleo Page. I'm here with...
I'm Carie Starr.
I'm Jarrod Starr.
And these two are the owners of Cherokee Valley Ranch here in Ohio. I said that right?
Cherokee Valley Bison Ranch.
My bad. Okay. All right, so we're going to start with some of the biology behind the bison, then we're going to move on to the culture around them, their history, and then about the ranch itself.
Okay.
All right, starting off, how big do these animals get?
They get pretty big. Now, big is, I guess, relative, but I'm a little under 200 pounds, and our big bull is around 2,000 pounds. Wow. So pretty good size. That's a typical size for a mature bull, and a mature cow is right around 1,100 to 1,200 pound range. So they get to be pretty good size.
Okay. And how old do they get at their oldest?
Well, we have a cow that's 18 years old and just had a calf this year, which we were totally not expecting. So typically 18 to 20 plus years, depending on their diet and things like that.
Is that sort of like the max captive age, and is the wild one a lot shorter?
They're a little bit longer in captivity than they are in the wild. We did know of a place here locally that had a cow that was 29 years old with a calf. So I would say probably another 5+ years over in captivity over in the wild.
All right, and how old is this herd behind us?
So we have one gal that's 18 years old. She's our oldest animal, but we got our initial herd in 2008. There's none of those animals left. Okay. So, yeah, 18 to down to just a few months old.
Yeah, some of the offspring. So we got Ebony and Elvira back in 2009, and they were 2-year-olds. And we've still got some of their offspring here. Honey, one of our herd cows, she's still out there. She had a calf this year. So some of them, some of the early animals, their genetics are still here and their offspring are still here.
Okay. Yeah. What does their sort of diet look like? What do they eat? Do you feed them anything?
So in the summertime, they're eating this beautiful salad bar of pasture that is out here, and they are grazing typically May through October, November time frame. Okay. And then in the winter, we feed hay that we source locally. So we have a farmer that makes 90% of the hay for us. He makes all of his hay and we buy it, and then whatever we need above and beyond what we can get from him, we buy from another local farmer.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's just local grass that's harvested, dried in hay form. And so it's all the same type of forage, but it's just in dried form.
Okay. And what about sort of maybe supplements you give them even?
So we do give them a buffet style mineral that would mimic what they'd be able to get in the wild. In Ohio, our soils are deficient in selenium, so we definitely have to give them that. And then they also use a lot of copper and a few other minerals. But we give them that so that way their hair coat stays good, they reproduce and things like that.
Okay. And I'm sorry a lot of these are repeat questions.
That's okay, no worries.
All right. Are these animals easier or harder to take care of than cattle, and are they more sustainable than cattle?
Boy, that's That's a deep question, and I think our answer is we have not raised beef cattle. Now, we know a lot of people in the bison industry who either started at beef and converted to bison, or started with beef and then added bison, and most of them tell us that bison are easier to care for. Now, getting bison versus sourcing beef is a big difference as well, because you can go to a lot of local sale barns here across Ohio, including one there in Zanesville where you came through. That's one of the biggest and most well-known livestock auctions in this area, and you can get beef cattle there every week. You'll never find bison there. You either have to go and buy a private treaty from another bison farm, or you have to go to a special bison-only auction. So in that respect, cattle are easier if you want to raise cattle and you need to replace them. But our experience is only in bison, so everything we've heard about the differences in raising them comes from people who do raise both. So our experience, we'd better not say it's easier or more difficult, but we find bison, once you get the infrastructure set up, relatively easy to raise.
Yeah, they breed, they're seasonal breeders, so they breed on their own. It's all done with live, bull cover. We don't AI or anything like that. And they calve on their own. So they naturally lose weight over the wintertime. The calves, so because of when they calve in the spring, they naturally lose weight over the winter, so the moms don't get too fat and the calves don't get too big inside the mom. And so in the spring, they have a 40 to 50 pound calf that they're able to easily give birth out in the pasture. In 18 years, we've had one instance where a cow had an issue to where it was unable to be saved.
Yeah, that's a good point. So the handling and the reproduction, we do know beef producers in the area, and they are not calving in the spring. They're calving in the winter time frame, and pulling calves, if you know what that means, they actually have to pull them out of the mothers, is something that's, I would say, common, that you don't have that problem in bison. So yeah, in that respect, bison are easier.
Yep.
Now
and they're healthy as well.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
All right. All right. Now they are born in the spring. When does the mating season happen?
Usually July, August time frame. So we're coming up on the mating season.
And what sort of behaviors do you see around that time?
That's a time, calving time. You want to stay out of the pastures because the mothers are fiercely protective of their new calves. I would say that almost any time, that's the most dangerous animal in a bison herd, is a mother with a young calf. Now, breeding time frame, stay away from the bulls, because starting in July, the bulls almost stop eating. They are very single-minded, and they are full-on breeding at that time frame. And you see a lot of behaviors. So the bulls, we talked about wallows earlier. So the bulls are going to go out into that wallow, and they're going to show off their majesty, and they're going to flop as hard as they can into that wallow and raise huge dust clouds. And then they get up and they will roar. It sounds like a lion roaring. And they'll walk around the pasture sometimes with their tongue hanging out, just roaring.
Growling. Yeah.
And I guess showing off their power to all of the cows, saying, "Hey, here I come."
All right.
It's that time frame is really interesting, and they court the females until they're bred, and you can watch this. They'll be with one cow or heifer, whichever the case is, and they'll stay with them right by their side until they're bred, and then they go to the next one. They do the same thing. And if they get a good pile of grass that they think is delicious, they'll have that cow come over and share in the meal with them. It's an interesting courtship, but it's always brief.
Okay. And is there any maybe conflict between males during this time?
There is.
Yeah.
In fact, right here at the corner of the driveway, Carie and I take our morning walks, and we go out the driveway and out onto the road. And right around this area, we noticed Plan B last summer. In this area, And what happened is in this fence, this pasture over here behind us, there was some breeding competition overnight, and our previous herd bull pushed Plan B right out of the pasture, broke a few posts off, and said, "I'm top dog, top bull," essentially.
Okay.
And anyway, really quick, we got Plan B right back in the pasture, but there is competition. What we learned last year is that those two were too closely mated in size, and usually there's a distinct difference in our cleanup bull, our smaller bull, from our top herd bull, and they just got too close too quick.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, good question.
All right. How large are the calves when they're born?
They weigh 40 to 50 pounds when they're born.
Okay.
So usually like your heifer calves, your girls, are going to be a little bit smaller than your bull calves. And when they're born, they're a red color, kind of the color of your shirt.
Okay.
They call them red dogs. And they're small like that. That way they are easy to come out of the mom.
Okay.
So.
And the color.
And the color. So you see out here in our pasture, we've got some seed heads on these grasses.
Okay.
They blend in with those grasses. And so the moms, like out on the prairies, they have also red grasses. They would be hiding the calves kind of in those grasses.
Okay.
And so they would blend in and be safe from predators.
So sort of like the deer of the spots, it looks like the light of the forest.
Yeah.
The red
Yep.
is to blend in.
Yep,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah, those plains grasses are kind of dormant, so they're brown at the time that the calves are born.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, how long are they calves? How long does it take for them to like mature?
So at 1 year, so all bison get a year older in May, whether they were born in July or whether they were born in May. That's like the unofficial birthday for bison. So they're a calf until they turn 1 year old, and then they're a yearling. But it takes about 2.5 to 3 years to get them to harvest weight. So like we're harvesting bulls at around 1,000 pounds.
Okay.
So it takes about 2.5 to 3 years to get to that size. And they can become sexually mature at about 2.5 to 3 years of age as well.
Okay. Speaking of sex, do they display any sexual dimorphism or difference between males and females?
Yes, so the males are much bigger. If you look at their horns, like the base of their horns, the bulls are much larger.
Okay.
And then the females are smaller and more, they actually look more feminine, like their faces are not as wide, and they kind of just have that girly look to them. And the females, their horns kind of curve in, whereas the bulls kind of go out and up.
Okay.
You'll get some changes to that, and like Plan B, his horns have started to curve in a little bit as well. But that's typically the main differences. They all have horns, they all have the same basic kind of coat, but the bulls just get
same hump.
same hump. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and the calves, one of the distinguishing features for the calves, we mentioned their color is red. So by around October time frame, that red starts to turn brown, and they will start to look like the same color as the mature animals.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do they experience any seasonal differences in like look?
Yeah, so right now, you may have captured on your videos, some of them have a bunch of hair hanging off
Yeah,
of
they're
them.
like shaggy.
Yeah, so they're shedding their winter coat.
Okay.
And so by probably the end of July, they should all be shedded out, and they'll look sleek, almost like a horse. Their hair's really short.
Okay.
And then by September, October timeframe, they start looking velvety. So they get a velvety little, their hair starts growing in, that winter hair. And then by December, they have this fantastic hair that is good down to minus 40 degrees.
Wow.
So when it snows here, the snow does not melt off of them until the sun comes out and melts it off.
Okay.
Or they shake it off. But
Yeah.
like they can be out in the field, and there'll be a spot in the field where they were laying, where the snow just went right over top of them.
All right, and how is that sort of coat built or like structured?
So they have a wool undercoat, and then they have guard hairs that come through that. And they have more hairs per square inch than any other mammal in North America.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of mammals in North America, kind of a weird segue, this isn't really their native habitat, is it?
It is.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so
Okay.
Bison were primarily on the plains, and then as their population grew, they expanded out into the east. And so they were in smaller numbers here, but they were here in Ohio. And like portions of like Route 40 were built on a buffalo trace.
Okay.
So a buffalo trace is a path that they walk over and over again. You know, we have 40 bison, so they make a path about that wide, but 1 million bison made like a highway. So when the settlers came, they were like, look, there's already a bunch of roads here.
Okay.
So they just built roads on these bison trails.
I didn't realize they had made it this far east.
Yep.
There's a history. Carie did a presentation in Columbus in a community called Franklinton, which has buffalo history there, bison history.
Wow.
In this area is also Buckeye Lake, which was formerly a swamp called the Great Buffalo Swamp.
Okay.
And so bison were here in the east. The last bison were extirpated from Ohio in the late 1700s. But they were here just in smaller numbers.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Now, out west, what did their sort of habitat look like compared to here?
So they call out west the Big Sky Country, so there's not a lot of trees, but back east here, I call it Big Tree Country.
Okay.
So we've got the rolling hills, and the major difference is out west it's a lot more of a dry climate, and in the east it's a more wet climate, so we get a lot more rain. So here in the east, you can support a lot more animals because there's a lot more grasses.
Okay.
Now out west, the rolling plains and whatnot, the grasses are a lot more nutrient dense, being dry, so they eat those, and it's just a lot less. So it takes a lot more grasses to sustain the bison.
Got it.
So here in Ohio, our stocking rate is 1 animal per acre. Out west, it's how many acres per animal do you need?
Okay.
So
One animal unit.
1 animal unit, so that's like a 1,000-pound animal. But yeah, out west, on the plains, you drive out through there, and the prairies, that was their main habitat. Not a lot of trees and things like that.
Drier. And one of the big challenges between the west and here is out here, the humid climate, we also have a lot more parasites. So the moisture does contribute to more health challenges for the animals as well. Okay. So some of the struggles that we have here with internal parasites that we talked about, how we can use a dart gun, for example, to treat. Okay. They have less of that in the west because it's more of an arid climate.
Okay.
Yeah.
But some things like ticks here as well.
Yeah, and also a lot more space. So you don't have 5,000-10,000 acre spreads here where bison are grazing. You have 25, 50 acres, 100 acres, 200 acres is a really big operation here. Okay. Where out west, you do have, it's common to have thousands of acres for your bison to roam, which also means that they're not covering the same ground quite as frequently.
Yeah, and then in the wild, humans, they were able to roam and not return to a grazing area for maybe a year or 2 years. So they wouldn't have grazed over top of the same grasses. They wouldn't have been exposed to those parasites again, because they would be like, I'm not coming back there until, that material is decayed. And
All right. How long have bison been here in North America?
Thousands of years.
Yeah, tens of thousands of years.
Yes.
In different iterations, as we talked about earlier, great big prehistoric bison to today's.
They came over on the land bridge. So there's bison animals in Europe. They're called wisent.
Okay.
So they're related. So they were in the same place at one time.
Yeah.
And then the bison came here. Bison latifrons, bison priscus. Yeah. And then. As the planet warmed up, the bison got smaller and became what they are today.
So now you have your wood bison and your plains bison.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
And latifrons is the ones with the giant horns, right?
Yeah, they were like the longhorn of bison.
Yeah. All right. I'm checking back. Do you know how these animals are related to cattle at all?
They're cousins.
Okay.
And you can crossbreed them, although that's not recommended. But they're closely enough related that they can mate with each other and have offspring.
Okay.
So they're a bovine. They're just, not the same species.
All right. Now we're going to move on to sort of the cultural history of them, as well as sort of the history starting in the 19th century.
Okay.
All right. What was the significance of the bison, or buffalo, if you want to call them that, to indigenous people?
Well, I'm not an indigenous person, and while Carie has some indigenous culture in her family, I think in the region we know what we know based on historical facts through reading about it. Indigenous peoples, I think, looked at bison completely different. They looked at bison like they look at a lot of things in nature as a relative, as part of their family. And bison were uniquely tied into their cultures.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't think I'd be the right person to speak on the importance to indigenous cultures for bison.
Okay. Do you know what sort of tools or products, or essentially goods, would be made from the bison? Because they use the entire animal.
Right. So they made tools from the bones. They made
From the horns?
From the horns. Like the horns had multiple uses. They would use those to store things in. Cups,
Okay.
spoons, utensils, things like that. They would cut them.
Fly swatters?
The tails were used for fly swatters.
Oh, wow.
Like the internal organs, like the bladder, was basically like a bucket, like a water storage vessel. But yeah, they used all of the parts, like the shoulder blades, they would use to scrape the hides.
Okay.
The hides were used, hair on. Like this time of year, it wouldn't make a great blanket or a robe or something because the hair is so short.
Okay. But that winter coat, I'm assuming, would be a great
coat,
blanket.
Yeah, so they would use those for their blankets and their heavy coats and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the hides, they made their clothes out of that, the hair off hides, the shoes. Basically, when we have kids visit, I say they were like the super Walmart of the plains,
Okay.
So they would go out and they would take the animals and they would utilize all of the parts. They'd be like, hey, what can I make out of this? What can I make out of that? Bones.
Okay.
Their hooves were used in ceremonial purposes. The heads, they would have the horns on like a hat or a headdress or something like that. So, yeah.
Very, very little went to waste. And that was something that was, I think, more common for even a lot of our ancestors, for all kinds of livestock, is that you didn't have your convenience stores, so everything went to use if possible.
Plus, it was sort of a respect.
It was
if I remember
It's
correctly.
respect.
Yep.
That is 100%. And we've tried using a lot of these things. We did save the bladder from an animal once to see, does it hold water? And yes, it does.
Wow.
It's an amazing animal, and we should all be, I think, more mindful of all of these parts when they're harvested.
Okay.
And everything right down to the chips. So the poop, they call them chips. On the plains, there aren't a lot of trees, so they would gather up those chips and dry them and use them for fires.
Okay.
Yeah, we've never burned buffalo chips, but
We have collected them.
We have collected them.
All right.
Yeah.
And we still have some friends today that that's how we met, is that I started collecting the chips from the winter in the field and put them in bags and sold them as fertilizer.
Okay.
People came out, bought them, and put them on their garden. So all kinds of good uses.
All right. Now, what were some beliefs around the bison in indigenous cultures?
So one of my favorite stories is the Lakota had an origin story of the bison where the natives were in underground caves and the bison, like a few of them ran out and they were turned into bison. And then they came to the cave and said, "It's safe, we'll take care of you," and lured the Lakota out of the cave onto the earth.
Okay.
So the bison said, "We'll take care of you, just come out of the cave." And anyway, and there's a lot of different stories about bison being integral in the assimilation or the natives being on the earth.
Okay. I remember one was like humans came from bison, like a blood clot, kind of.
Oh, okay. I haven't heard that one, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's another good story.
All right.
But yeah, they view bison as their relatives,
Okay.
probably for that reason.
Did any groups view them like in a sort of like a higher status, or was it all generally like respected?
You know, I don't know about that. There was a lot of different tribes and cultures, but bison were, especially on the plains, very central to their life. You know, they provided all the things that they needed to survive.
Okay.
Yeah, which is, well, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. We're getting there eventually to the sad
Yes,
part.
yes.
At the 25-minute mark,
Okay.
just so you know.
All right.
Also, it's perfectly fine if you don't know something. Those are the three most important words in science, in history. All right. How many animals were there here in North America before the 1800s?
Goodness. The textbooks these days, the references will give a range of 10 to 30 million. Previous to that, there's expected numbers up to 60 to 80 million. But I think getting an exact count on that is pretty difficult. But we know that they were in the tens of millions, and whether that's 30 or 60, trying to comprehend that amount of bison on this landscape, I think, is something that we just can't do.
Oh, yeah.
But we know where they went from those numbers.
Yeah.
And that's a different story.
And you were showing me the video of that, just 1,100.
Yes.
I can't imagine a million or
Yeah.
more.
100 is, and when we were there, you could, like you said, that had to feel like thunder, and it did. Like you could hear that, and not just hear it, but you could feel it. And with 1,100, that's amazing. But 11,000, 11 million. Yeah, it's hard to fathom.
All right, yeah. Also, I might ask for that video later,
Okay.
if that's fine.
Happy to share that.
I would love to have that visual there.
Happy.
Okay.
Because that was awesome to see.
Yeah.
All right. Now we get sad. When did the sort of downfall of them begin?
In the 1800s. As manifest destiny, the settlers came and pushed their way westward. Those pesky natives were getting in the way. And so Phil Sheridan was one of the contributors who decided to annihilate the bison herds to starve out the natives and force them onto reservations. So they would go out west and just shoot bison for days and days and days until there were none left.
Yeah, and there's a lot of contributing factors. The California gold rush, the gold rush, and the copper discoveries in the Dakotas and Montana. All of that contributed. So wherever there was major discoveries of important minerals like that, Europeans flocked in, and that was a direct clash with the people that lived in this continent and that used the land. They also didn't have the same view of ownership of the land. They were part of the land. So ownership of the land was something unusual and novel, I think, to the indigenous communities, where it was, that was the pioneers, the Europeans. They wanted to own the land.
Yeah.
And that was a big contributing factor, is that there was no way for them to share it with the people who lived here and didn't view it as their own land.
Yeah. Now, was there any sort of behavior that would have maybe aided incoming Europeans in killing these bison en masse?
Behavior, maybe describe a little bit more. What do you mean by that?
Sort of like, if they shoot one, would it cause a mass panic, or would it just sort of
gotcha.
drop and nobody else really notices?
You know, bison are big animals, and they really aren't afraid of much. So they weren't afraid of people. People, you know, there's been accounts like bison are blind, they can't see because you could just walk right up on them. But they just weren't afraid of people because, you know, they were so much larger. But yeah, they had the equalizer of guns, so they could hide out and just drop the bison and
Shoot en masse.
yeah, and they wouldn't know what was going on. I mean, there's nothing that scares our bison. The only thing we've ever seen scare our bison is overhead, like low-flying aircraft.
Okay.
That bothers them, but otherwise, thunder, lightning, people walking around them, they really aren't afraid.
So they were easy targets.
Yeah.
And we know from history that buffalo shooters could take out hundreds of bison in a day, and not have the herd disperse.
Yeah. And was this just sort of people going west, or were there maybe sportsmen involved, or maybe companies, or even government?
I think a combination
All of the
above.
above. Yeah. It was government directed to starve out the natives. It was, you know, belts. They used bison hides to make belts and things like that. The tongue was highly desirable. The pelts were highly desirable. So yeah, that was another contributing factor.
The railroads.
The railroads, yeah.
Okay.
They had a lot. Business has always had a lot of influence in our politics and policy here in this country. And if there's something in the way in nature, communities that the businesses want, they use that power to affect policy to get what they want. And I think that was part of it.
Yep.
Minerals, land, natural resources, all of it was highly desired by those that had power.
All right.
And they used that to decimate the bison, to weaken the herds, to weaken the native communities, and expand into their territories.
Okay. Now, after this extermination, how many animals were left?
Very, very few.
Yeah, there's estimates from 500 to 1,500 in that, you know, it just depends who you talk to, but under 2,000 animals.
And again, it still sounds like a lot,
Right.
but compared to tens of millions.
Right.
Well, we were just, I was reading a story about wild turkeys, for example, here in Ohio. And the last 3 years, they've been harvesting roughly 15,000 wild turkeys.
Wow.
But as recently as when we were kids, there were not even 15,000 turkeys in Ohio. So we also did that. For example, we talked about that earlier on all the different species that we exterminate and then have to bring back. Wild turkey was one of those that we had to actually bring back from the brink, and that happened in our lifetime. So we're seeing that with bison now as well, and that there's a growing movement to expand bison across the country. And there was a movement for a while, 1 million bison.
Bison 1 million, yeah.
To get the population up to at least 1 million here. So, yeah, it's a long road, but I think we're on the right track.
Okay. Did this extermination just impact the plains bison, or also the wood bison?
So wood bison are native to Canada.
Okay.
So Canada, I mean, those numbers were depleted as well.
But not as,
I don't think quite as bad.
like, drastically.
Right.
And I don't think they ever had the same numbers as plains bison
Right,
in the first
right.
place.
They wouldn't have as much space.
Right.
Okay. How did this extermination impact native communities as well?
Well, it drove them to starvation, to where they were vulnerable, and finally agreed to go to reservations and get off of their lands because they had no food. no resources. So it led to their taming, I guess, their downfall.
All right.
Yeah.
I told you it would get a little sad.
Yes.
All right.
Just then I just heard a bison grunt.
Yes.
They were also sad.
Yeah. They're listening in their own story.
They are.
Yeah. So in Somerset, which is a little town 15 minutes from here, there's a statue of Phil Sheridan, who was one of the ones that said the only good Indian is a dead Indian.
Wow.
We did a farmer's market there, and we were selling our bison meat because he was one of the ones that were instrumental in ordering the basically slaughter of the bison. So it's like, we're still here, buddy. We're still here, you know. Native
Can't
people
get rid of them that easy.
and bison are still here. You did not accomplish your goals.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of in my reading, a comparison, like the story of the bison mirrors that of natives.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because they were just so intertwined.
Yeah, they were. You know, they were dependent on the bison, and you know, Native people view bison as their relatives. So, yeah.
All right, in the late 19th century, going into the 20th century, even nowadays, were there any sort of movements or organizations trying to bring back the bison?
Yes.
Yeah, there were. And interestingly enough, a lot of it was spearheaded by Europeans who saw what they essentially had done.
Yeah.
And then went about trying to stop that destruction, slow it down, reverse it. So there's a lot of famous, I guess, characters in the bison restoration that were on the European side as well. It's kind of a sad story because, you know, when you look around and you see that there were literally bison as far as the eye can see, and then you have people out there hunting for days and they can't see bison anymore, and then that regret creeps in. So yeah,
when you no longer have the guise of manifest destiny and white man's burden, you feel a little guilty.
You do, and you spend any amount of time with bison, you realize what an amazing, majestic animal they are, and yeah, that you want to do everything you can to try to make sure that they're around for forever. And yeah, there were certain Europeans. President Roosevelt is a good example of one of those that wanted to make sure that bison were restored. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of those stories.
Like Charles Goodnight and his wife they had a herd of bison. William Hornaday was another name that was active in restoring bison.
And lesser known Native Americans who were also instrumental in helping bring back bison.
Yeah.
Yep.
They would capture calves on the plains and just bring them back and
Try and propagate a herd.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
37 minutes.
Got it. After this section, I'll have you stop it and then restart it for about the ranch. That way that's just a separate recording. All right. How many animals are there today after these restoration efforts?
450,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not as low as the 1,000. It's
No.
still not near as high.
No, and for perspective, McDonald's, just to feed McDonald's restaurants, they slaughter more cows in a day than there are bison in the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. What current threats do these animals still face?
Us.
Yeah. Drought. So, you know, Jarrod mentioned the bison 1 million. That was a goal a few years ago. But there's been significant drought across the West and even here in Ohio. And so a lot of people harvested the females. And so the females are what makes your babies. And when you have fewer females, you have fewer babies. So your herd can't grow quite as quickly.
Okay.
So drought is a major factor.
Yeah. Development.
I had another thought, but it went right out of my head.
Also, another one be cattle farmers wanting more room.
Yeah, so a great example that's been in the news the last few weeks. So there are Ohio government grazing lands,
Okay.
And so a group called American Prairie had grazing contracts on some of this government land. And the cattle ranchers were mad because they wanted access to that land. And so they are essentially getting them kicked off of this grazing land, this American Prairie. Now it's been contested, so we'll see what happens. But they're like, they're American Prairie is sort of a conservation group. So they're trying to develop a large group or a large section of land where these bison can sort of mimic their natural migration patterns. And some of that has government grazing land in between, but they got the contracts and fair and square, but they're like, nope, you're not raising these for food, even though they do provide some food. You know, they do cull, you know, some of the animals that aren't suitable for breeding and things like that. So, but they donate that to like the tribes and things like that. So, that's another
big industry using their influence to affect.
And also another one would be the scare of the disease that causes still. Yeah. Can you explain sort of what that is, how it works?
It's not nearly as scary as it was that we read in our initial bison producer's handbook. It was one of the things that we were terribly nervous about. It's not very common. There's other diseases that affect bison,
Mycoplasma bovis.
That's more out west. But these are not diseases that are completely devastating the industry. It's something that you need to be aware of. There are a few other diseases as well, but again, good practices, being good management practices can help keep those in check. But they're not I think, as big of a factor on the bison and future of bison as some of the other things we discussed.
Okay. Yeah. And what is it called again? Sorry. The stillbirth disease?
Oh, brucellosis.
Brucellosis. Yeah. Has there ever actually been a case of a bison transferring that to a cattle?
Not that's documented.
Not documented.
Okay.
Cases.
So it's a bit of a scare for nothing.
Yes.
Yeah, there are cases of wild elk, actually transferring that to cattle, but not bison cattle.
Just wild, because they're the ones that are related.
Right. It is wild. And I think, again, we go back to industry influence. Elk are not a huge farmed animal, so there's not as much risk or threat to the beef industry from elk going out and competing for those grazing lands, but there are for bison. And I think that is sometimes used as an excuse, a scapegoat.
And in fact, it was cattle that actually gave brucellosis to bison.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, literally calling the kettle black, kind of.
That's right.
Pretty much,
right.
Yep.
What can people at home do to advocate for these amazing animals?
Well,
visit bison ranches. Really try a bison burger. Enjoy something has to have value for it to stick around, for people to support that. And one of the greatest ways to support bison is honestly to eat bison. You're supporting local ranches, you're supporting the restoration of bison. You don't, if you're not a meat eater, you don't need to do that, but you can go visit a bison farm. As you know, we've got teepees back here, so we can have people come out and enjoy our bison ranch, enjoy viewing the bison without having to actually enjoy a bison burger. But we think that's also a good idea.
Yeah. It's sometimes odd to think about conservation being actually eating the animal.
Yeah, and I think that comes at a certain scale. If we're talking about the late 1800s, early 1900s, the focus then probably wasn't on enjoy a bison burger because the numbers were so low. But today, as you're trying to grow that herd, there needs to be an economic value in order to grow that herd to a size that can return it to its, if not its former numbers, a sustainable number that we don't have to constantly worry about.
Okay. Yeah. And that's all we have for that section. All right, so how long have you guys been raising bison?
18 years. So we started in 2008.
All right, and how much land is required for these animals? You said an acre an animal, but do you guys have maybe more than that, less than that?
So it's 1 animal unit per acre, and an animal unit is a 1,000-pound animal. So
Okay.
I am a nerd, so I have a spreadsheet that has all of our animals and their guesstimated weights on there. So I can then add that up and average it out to see approximately how many pounds of bison we have on our farm.
Okay.
Yeah, we can sustain about 30,000 pounds of bison on our farm.
Okay.
Because we're in Ohio, and most of the time it's a wet climate, and so our grasses grow, and we can do that. And management is another issue. Like we do rotational grazing, so we manage our grasses a little bit better than somebody that just has a big field and turns out their herd of bison and lets them pick and choose what they want.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. What sort of barriers do you need to keep these animals sort of in place?
Well, the barriers you can see right behind us are fence, and that's it is a physical barrier. It's more of a psychological barrier. So we have to have the fences up. But like Carie had mentioned earlier, if you have companionship, if you have food and you have water, the herd's going to be pretty happy. So you don't want to start off with anything less than really 3 animals. That's a nice little small herd. So they have friendship, they've got plenty of food to eat, clean water, and then some mineral supplementation if you need. But the barriers, these aren't necessarily going to hold in a bison if they want to leave. What you want to do is create the conditions so they want to stay where you want them to stay.
And it's a lot about being social, having food.
Yep.
Being social, having food, yep. Space to move, so we want to make sure that they have enough space to exhibit the normal bison behaviors as well.
Okay.
And you got to see some of that earlier. They got to run and play and kick and just do what bison do.
All right.
And then in areas like our corral, so that's where more stressful things are going to happen. Like we're going to get them all in there. They're going to be in a confined space. And then, so we need to make sure that our fences are heavy duty so that they can't go through them, and tall because they can jump 6 foot from a standstill. So.
Okay. Now, obviously, you guys get meat from them. Are you able to get milk from them?
No.
Okay.
So we also fell prey to that, like you hear of buffalo mozzarella, but that is water buffalo and not bison. So bison have really small udders. That's one of the benefits of their physiology. So in the West, where it's much colder, they have small udders so that when they lay down, they don't freeze to the ground.
Yep.
Okay. Are there any other animals in your care here at Cherokee Valley Bison Ranch?
Just our peafowl, and they're kind of free range.
Okay. They're just here to look pretty.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're here to look pretty.
They're Art Deco.
They are, very much.
Okay. Finally, where can people come visit you?
Right here at our ranch. We have 2 teepee sites that we book on Hip Camp. So people go to our Hip Camp listing and can book a stay in our teepees, or if they want to come for a tour, we have a link on our website, CherokeeValleyBisonRanch.com, where you can fill out a form and submit an inquiry to come for a formal tour. And we're open every Saturday, and people can just come down and see the bison on Saturday and buy some delicious bison meat.
Yeah,
All right.
Follow us on our socials.
Yep,
Facebook,
or
Instagram.
Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all those fun places.
Everything will be linked in the description. And thank you so much for your time. You've both
Connor.
been amazing.
Well, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
And I don't know how to end an interview, so
I gotta get a shot.
okay. I'll ask you too.
Okay.
All right, we good?
Yep.
All right. And one final question for you guys. What is your favorite dinosaurs?
Well, my favorite dinosaur is the Brontosaurus, because they're big grazing animals just like our bison.
All right.
I was going to say the same, but just to be different, I've kind of been partial to the Triceratops.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Big horned animals.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. And you, ma'am, what is your favorite dinosaur? Thank you for your very insightful answer.
Pork
I'll
chops.
put something in there. Yep. I'll put something in there.
So, on your way in, did you guys see the